Hello, today we're going to have a look at jQuery UI buttons, and I'm just going to show you a technique that I use a lot when I'm doing custom content management systems for customers or clients. You know, simple ones where you just want some simple interactivity and some simple buttons with icons on them, etc, etc. This is a really good technique, a really good thing to use is the jQuery UI buttons, and they're themable. If you go to the jQuery UI website, you can read all about it and download it and everything. I'm going to assume you've used a bit of jQuery before and a bit of the UI. I'm not really going to go into how to download it and get it up and running because there's 1,000 videos out there for that. We're just going to dive straight into it. Into our code editor here, I'm using PHP Storm, which is unbelievable. I can't believe I've only just found it. I'm coming from NetBeans. Anyway, here you just see a bog standard HTML document. The CSS file for the UI is all we need. The end of the body tags and the end of the body section, we've got the jQuery library and the jQuery UI library in that order. And then I've just opened up some script tags and done the regular .ready that's going to run our scripts when the page is ready, when the DOMs are accessible and ready. So let's get flying with this. First of all, a regular link looks like this. Not very exciting. Not very useful either if you want it to be a button. So, with the power of jQuery and the jQuery UI, you can just say this is going to give every anchor element on the page, it's going to run it through the button method, and you're going to get a button. That's great. So, not really useful when you think about it, because you don't want every link to be a button. So you just specify the class. And let's say we're going to use UI button. Or just button. And then here we can say .button. So that's still going to work, that's great. But what it means is that we can go here and we can create a regular text link at the side of it, and it's not going to be a button. So we've got a bit of dynamic action going on now. The next step is we want icons on these. Content management systems, typically you want to be going backwards, forwards, expanding elements, deleting things, etc, etc. And here's where the icons come in. And if you just click on themes on the UI website and go to the bottom, here are all the available icons. And if you just hover over them, you can see the class that's been applied. For example, the trash is UI-icon-trash. Remember that, because we're gonna use that in a moment. So, to set an icon, we pass some options to this method, and we say icons, and then we say primary, and then we'll just use the one we just looked at for now. You just give this a string, which is basically it's referencing a CSS class. But anyway, that gives you an icon at the side of your text. Very, very handy. Very simple, and there's a lot to choose from. You know, you can be deleting things with the trash icon. You can zoom in, and you can minus, plus, all these things. It's a very, very good idea to incorporate this. But let's look at this. Straight away, we've got a problem here. We don't want to be hard coding a choice of icon into our script. So the first way to get around this and the way I like to use, is to just set something like a rel, a rel, or relationship attribute. Maybe this will just specify exactly which icon you want. This way you're keeping which icon you want in the markup instead of in the script. And then this poses a slight problem, because now we have to do it. We're going to loop through the anchor elements on the page. So that we can access extra information that we've set here or anywhere else. So to do that, we're just going to do the same thing to start off with. I'm going to say every anchor element that's got a class of button, and we're going to say .each, specify a function. Now this is going to collect every button, every link that's got a class of button on the page, and it's going to do whatever we tell it to here with it. Ignore this for a moment. So for each one of those, you didn't have to ignore it for long. I'm coming back to it already. For each one of those, we want to set it as a button. But now we don't need that here. We just use this, because by doing $ and this, we are referencing each element in turn, because this each is iterating over every anchor with a class of button on the page. So now we're just saying go through all the buttons and apply this method to them. Check that that's still working, which it is. And now we need to get rid of this hard-coded bit of this string, sorry, that's hard-coded here. So because we're now accessing the entire element here, we can say var rel equals this attribute rel. Let's just see what that's sending. It should be sending this string here, and it is. We now have UI dash icon dash trash. Great stuff. Now, to set that, we just simply change this. And there you go. We have the first part of our dynamic button generator. So we can change this to circle triangle W, which is just one I know from memory, and that could be, for example, back to user list, something like that, and you have a nice interaction on your website with virtually no effort. But there's one issue here, and I'll show you. Let's say you wanted to use a next element, and let's say you picked the correct icon. Look, this is wrong. The icon needs, if it's pointing to the right, it needs to be to the right. And this is what prompted me to create this screencast, just because I had such a simple solution to this, and I just thought that it might help somebody. You never know. So the reason it's always on the left is because we've specified primary here. If we were to put secondary, then they would both be on the right, which again is not going to be ideal. We want to be specifying which is which. So we're going to send it another parameter, or another argument, or another piece of information, whatever you want to call it. And I've found, because we're already specifying an icon here, it's nice. It's a nice workflow when you're building these applications to just put a comma and specify an L or an R for left or right. Now, jQuery doesn't know about this yet, because we've not instructed it to do so here. So it's going to default back to just a regular icon. So let's figure out a way that we can catch this information. Now, because we know there's only ever going to be a left or a right, and there's not going to be a third option inside here, we can do something as simple as split, use the JavaScript method split in like this. You could say var split equals rel.split. Tell it what to look for, and now this is going to be an array. It's going to have 2 elements in it, and it's going to be whatever is either side of that comma. Just to show you that, we could say alert split 0, which is the first, and you're going to get the string, which is great. We're getting 2 because we set 2, but and then just for another example, set that to 1, and you're going to get the L or the R. That's great. So now, just to clear things up for myself, I like to just specifically set an icon variable. So I would say split 0, and I know I can use icon later. I can use this later. So that's that. And now, if you think about it, all we need to do is to figure out whether we set L or R. So, what's the best way to do that? A simple switch. So we're going to say split, and we're going to use the second value. Now we're going to just simply say if it's L, and then icon is equal to, and send it an option pair, key value pair of primary and icon. So we're sending it this, and we're setting primary, which is the jQuery UI button option, and then we're setting it as the variable icon. It'll become clear in a moment, and we'll just break out of that if that turns out to be true. And then we'll just set the because we know there's only going to be 2, we'll just set a default, which is going to be the opposite. So this will be secondary. Okay. Now we've done that, it's simply a case of doing the same thing. We're going to say this, because we're still inside this each loop, we're just going to still say this button, but instead of specifying the options in this manner, we're going to get rid of those brackets, and we're going to just send it icon. Because if you just ignore that we've set icon there and look, we're either sending it that or that. If we've specified an L up here, it's going to be on the left. Or if we specify an R, or well, in this case, the way we've coded it, actually, if there's nothing after the comma, or if there's no comma, then it's going to default to be on the right hand side, which is how I like it. You can modify that however you feel fit. So I hope that's clear what we're doing here. We're creating a smart workflow where the script's doing all the work, and on the fly we can tell it which icons to use in the markup, which is typically somewhere where we're accessing more often than anywhere else. And what you'll find is in large projects, to be able to just bomb along and type, if you know you've got a button class set up, there's always going to be a button, and for a rel attribute, if you can just use these icons in this way, it makes it very quick. Now obviously, if you've not got, there are so many other ways of doing this. You know, you could have specific classes set up for specific icons and things like this, but I found that this is the most dynamic and it's the most flexible way because nothing's set in stone. You can just go in here and put any icon in. So let's just see this running first of all. And there you go. We've now got something that we can change on the fly. We can just take that out there and they'll both be on the right, or we can just specify that one's on the left. In content management systems you'll find this is enough usually. So let's just say we had bike next, and then so the real workflow now, actually before I show you that, here's one other thing that you want to take out because that's repeated, and you can add it on here. UI dash icon dash, that's the prefix that jQuery uses for all its icons, and then just concatenate it to that bit, and that's not worked. And why is that? That's because I'm in PHP mode. Concatenate it the correct way that JavaScript understands, and you get that. So now here's the workflow. You want a button element anywhere, and bear in mind you can copy this. This code is now not specific to any project or anything else other than the class that you specify here. So now you can copy and paste this into any project, and your workflow is as simple as this. Sorry, yeah. Your workflow will be quicker than mine if you use the correct classes. There you go, delete user, and then you say, oh no, I wanted that on the left hand side, and there you go. I hope that's helpful. Like I said before, there's probably 1,000 ways of doing this, but I find this small logic here gives you great flexibility when building little interactivity into your websites or custom admin areas and things like that. Okay, any questions or comments, please leave them on YouTube or visit the site, which is shakyshane.com. Thank you very much.